Rain hammered the streets as Daniel, a single dad working 2 jobs, rushed to pick up his daughter Lily from school. He was late again. Halfway across the intersection, he suddenly stopped. An elderly woman with a cane stood trembling at the curb, cars splashing water near her feet. People kept walking. No one even looked at her. Daniel didn't think twice. He jogged over, gently shielding her from the rushing crowd. "Take your time, ma'am. I've got you," he said, offering his arm. She smiled weakly. "You're the first to stop," she whispered. The walk light turned red halfway through, but Daniel stayed with her, waving impatient drivers to wait. When they finally reached the other side, the woman looked up at him as though she was studying his heart. "What's your name, son?" "Daniel." "I should get going," he said, already stressing about the time. But she pressed a shiny key into his palm, heavy, gold, and old-fashioned. "This," she said softly, "belongs to you now." Daniel froze. "Ma'am, what is this?" She pointed across the street, not to an apartment, not to a store, but to a massive mansion sitting quietly behind iron gates. "That house," she whispered, "is yours if you want it. You just earned it." Daniel felt his breath leave his chest. What kind of woman was this, and why him? Daniel stared at the key, convinced he misunderstood. A mansion? For helping her cross the street? It sounded impossible. "Ma'am, I can't take this," he stammered. "I just did what anyone would do." She shook her head. "No. Not anyone. Hundreds walked past me today. Only you stopped." Cars rushed by, but the world around Daniel suddenly felt strangely quiet. The woman introduced herself as Margaret Ellington, owner of the historic Ellington estate, a home the entire town whispered about but few had ever entered. Rumor said the owner was reclusive, wealthy beyond imagination, and grieving a loss she never spoke of. "Come," she said. "Let me show you." Daniel followed reluctantly, still gripping the key like it might vanish. When the iron gates opened, manicured gardens and towering oak trees framed a house so beautiful it didn't feel real. Lily would collapse from joy just seeing the backyard. Inside, marble floors gleamed beneath chandeliers. Yet the mansion felt lonely. "This house needs a family again," Margaret said. "Someone who knows struggle. Someone who values people. Not money." She stopped at a portrait hanging by the staircase, a younger woman in a wheelchair, smiling brightly. "My daughter, Amelia," Margaret whispered. "She passed 2 years ago." Kindness meant everything to her. Daniel swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry. She always dreamed that this home would be filled with laughter again. When I watched you help me, without hesitation, I saw the kind of man she prayed this world would have more of." Daniel's eyes burned. "But why me?" he asked. Margaret smiled gently. "Because you reminded me of what kindness looks like, and what Amelia lived for." Daniel stood silently in the grand hallway, overwhelmed. The walls, the light, the portraits, all felt too big, too heavy for someone like him. A struggling single dad barely making rent, suddenly handed the keys to a mansion? Life didn't work like this. At least, not for him. "I can't accept this," Daniel finally whispered. "There must be someone more deserving." Margaret shook her head firmly. "Deserving isn't about wealth or status. It's about heart." She motioned him toward the living room, where a small wooden box sat on a velvet table. She opened it carefully. Inside lay a stack of handwritten letters. These were Amelia's, Margaret said. One of her last wishes was that her home would one day belong to someone who lived with kindness, not comfort. She handed Daniel a letter dated months before Amelia's passing. He unfolded it slowly. "If someday a stranger shows kindness when the world rushes by, give them my home. Let goodness live here again." Daniel's throat tightened. He had never met Amelia, yet somehow, she had written about him long before he crossed that street. "I'm just a normal guy," he said, voice cracking. "I'm doing my best for my daughter." "That's exactly why you're perfect," Margaret replied. "Lily deserves safety. Stability. A home full of love." Daniel realized the mansion wasn't a gift for him. It was a sanctuary for Lily. Still trembling, he looked at Margaret. "What do you want in return?" She smiled, eyes glossy. "Just promise me one thing. Fill this house with the kind of kindness you showed me today." Daniel nodded slowly, knowing his life had just changed forever. The next morning, Daniel brought Lily to the mansion. Her tiny eyes widened as she stepped through the towering doorway. "Daddy, are we in a movie?" she whispered. Daniel knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. This might be our new home." Lily gasped, racing across the living room, her laughter echoing through the empty halls, exactly the sound Margaret had been longing to hear. The old woman stood quietly in the doorway, hands trembling with emotion. "She reminds me of Amelia," she whispered. "Same spark. Same gentle heart." Lily suddenly ran back, holding a framed picture she found on a side table. "Daddy, who is this pretty lady in the wheelchair?" Margaret knelt beside her. "That's my daughter. She was brave, just like you." Lily smiled proudly. "Then I'm gonna take care of her house for her." Tears streamed down Margaret's face. Daniel felt his chest tighten with gratitude so deep he could barely breathe. Later that afternoon, as sunlight poured through the tall windows, Daniel signed the papers officially transferring the mansion to him. Margaret insisted on nothing in return, not money, not service, not favors. But Daniel made his own promise. "This house will never be empty again," he said. "You're family now. You're welcome here anytime." Margaret nodded, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. As Daniel watched Lily dance through the hallways, something settled inside him, hope. Safety. A fresh start he never dreamed possible. All because he stopped to help a stranger. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness doesn't just change someone else's life. It changes your own in ways you could never imagine. And for Daniel and Lily, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one built on love, gratitude, and a mansion full of warmth again.